the acorn become the giant oak tree. Apparently, Aristotle used to hold up an acorn in front of his class and say, "What do I have here?" And what he was asking them, he wanted them to say, "You have an oak tree." He didn't have an oak tree, he had an acorn. Now, you could take an acorn to the most erudite scientist in the world, have them dissect it, and they're not going to find an oak tree in it. There's no oak tree in the acorn. Jammed right up against that acorn is energy. It's called earth. There's a pattern plan in the acorn that controls the vibration of the acorn. And because of the vibration, because of the frequency it's operating on, it has no ability to change the frequency. It's going to stay in that vibration. It can only attract the energy in the earth that's in harmony with the acorn. Now, there would be energy jammed right up against that acorn that's in harmony with a carrot seed, but not an oak tree. So that energy will stay jammed right up against the acorn, but never become one with the acorn. Meanwhile, there's energy quite a ways away from the acorn that's in harmony with the acorn. If you could see with the naked eye what's happening, like an obedient soldier, that particle of energy will march right to the acorn. And what happens when it gets there? What happens if I put 2 drops of water together? I got 1 drop of water, haven't I? And I got a bigger drop of water than I had before I joined the 2 together. Try and separate that 1 drop into the same 2 little massive molecules. You're never going to do it. Well, when this particle of energy, which can be a long ways away from the acorn, marches towards the acorn, and it will march like an obedient soldier right to the acorn, and when it becomes one with the acorn, what's the acorn do? It does the only thing it can do. It expands. When you add energy to energy, you get more energy. And the acorn expands and then shoots out the bottom, then shoots out the top, then it starts to attract from the atmosphere as well as from the earth. See, a pattern plan is in the seed. It controls the vibration of the seed. The acorn's in the earth. The oak tree's in the universe. The law of attraction brought them together. What is the law? We said the law is God's modus operandi. It's how everything happens. You know the good that you want? It's already here. You got to get in harmony with it. If you don't get in harmony with it, you're never going to attract it. You will not attract it. But that's how the acorn grows. That's how all other seeds grow, and that's how you grow. You want to know the difference? The acorn has no ability to change the pattern plan. It has no ability to alter the vibratory rate that the acorn's in. You have the ability to alter your vibration at will. I have the ability to alter my vibration at will. When we alter the vibration, we start to express the good we've been desiring, and we start to attract the energy that's in harmony with it. Have no fear. Fear not. Seek ye first this kingdom and its righteousness, and all these things will be given to us. I hope.
Hello everybody. Welcome to Freedom Friday. Freedom Friday, where some part of today you allow yourself the freedom to put you first. That's what Freedom Friday means. And do something that fills your cup. Now, look who's here still on day 5. Now, I have just finished writing this. So every day I write out the lesson that I'm going to be working on. So there's a few pages and I've only just finished it. But you're not here today because of luck. Most people, when they meet an idea or meet with an idea that requires them to change something about themselves or their life, they walk away from it. They quietly disappear. Guess what? You guys didn't. So bravo, bravo, bravo. Now, let's talk money. Yesterday, I gave you all a number. And you know what that number was? The number that it cost to work with me. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly what I've spent on my own thinking over the last 9.5 years. And what happened with every figure that I spent? Because money really is the thing that a lot of people get wrong. Well, most people actually. And it decides more of your life than it really should have credit for. Like, people let money decide how they spend their time, like what they're thinking about in the time. They let money be the thing that they think about the most. How they spend it. They let the figure or the price of things decide what they spend their money on. Now, this is a big one of what you spend your money on, and I have been guilty of this in my own business. Most people, because of money, will keep the customer that doesn't treat their team right. They will say yes to a sale and say, well, that's business. I want you to know I only make decisions on what I want. Do I want it? And do I want to work with somebody or some company? That's what I make my decisions on. Not how much it costs. And the biggest thing that I had to do before I started all this, was ask permission. Ask permission to spend money. Ask permission to buy anything. I even did a barefoot investor thing where he said anything over $400, you should ask your partner for permission. You should make decisions together. I didn't buy that one. I did a whole lot of the other things, but I just didn't like that. I thought, why does somebody else, when they're not going after what I'm going after, get to decide if I can do it or not? Because then you have to get really good in sales, because I have to then sell my husband, or you sell your partner or your wife or your kids on an idea so that you can get what you want. Now, Craig and I had that going on for a little while. We would have to ask each other's permission, and because sometimes then it would be a debate, we wouldn't even bother asking. So we would just, if it was over the $400, we wouldn't even do it. We wouldn't even bother. So our lives just got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then we were competing who had the worst life. And then if one of us did, like I'd say, can you please look after the kids, honey, so I can go away for a weekend? Why do you need to go away for a weekend? I'm like, oh, I just like a break, I suppose. Well, what do you need a break for? I've been working this whole time. You've been at home. And da, da, da. Like, the whole thing became a competition of who had the worst life. And that was the way that we lived. Now, money also decides what you say yes to as well. Like, not just in business. What about the clothes that you buy, the fun that you have, the trips that you have, the food that you eat, what you eat when you dine out? A lot of people let money be the decider on what they do. So then we become the plaything of how much money we have in our bank accounts. It also decides what you put up with. Like, if you're in business, we've all had those suppliers that let you down, but it costs too much money to go, or it takes too much time to go and set up an account with somebody else, and blah, blah, blah. We stay with them. Maybe in your personal life, like you have some things in your teeth you want fixed. You let money decide when you can do it, and like it makes the decisions. Working on weekends, like how much you work, you let money decide on how much you work. But I want you to know that none of that is really about money. And here's what no one really told me. Money and lack of it is not a resource problem. Money is a self-image problem if you have the lack of it. however you see yourself, whatever level you imagine yourself on, that's where you'll sit. And if you deviate off it, you'll keep coming back to that level, no matter what's sort of going on around you. Even if you have a bad month, you'll come back up to that level because that's where you've set. So if you have a good month, chances are you'll go down and have a bad month and you'll come back up on that level. Because money is the product of your self-image. However you see yourself and the vibration that you live on decides what comes in and what goes out. And here's the truth about it, hey? If every single person in this whole wide world went and took out all the money that they had, there would not be enough. The physical side of money does not match what is really going on. So maybe play around with, how can I let that go? How can I let the belief that money controls me go, so that then I can be more in control of me? And it's going to come from that image, your goal that you're going after. Now, there's 4 money mindsets that I play around with, right? And any of you that have worked with me with money before, you'll know what they are. Deficit. Number 1 is deficit. You spend more money than you have coming in. So you're always behind the 8 ball, you're always borrowing on the next thing, you've got afterpay, you've got credit card debt, you've got bills that you're on payment plans on, you have got less money coming in than what is going out. Then we've got break even. Just about to the dollar, you are spending what comes in. So each week or each month you start at 0 or less than 0 if you're deficit. Remember, deficit is less than 0, so you still got bills that are owed this month. Break even, you've paid everything out, but there's nothing left. Then there's surplus, where you've got a little bit left over. Like, you're not spending the whole stuff, but there's a little bit left over. And then there's abundance. You're spending way less than you make, and you're deliberately or consciously growing it. So you're either growing your revenue or you're growing the amount that's left. But I want to make one thing there. In abundance, I don't want you to get, oh yeah, so it's just all about investing and stuff like that and you just don't have a life. No, in abundance, you are able to do the things that you really want to do as well. You're not diminishing your life just to be able to put money away. Abundance is not going without so that there's more in the account. It's having enough left over that you get to say yes to the things that you want. So yes to the trip. You know, I had one of my family members say, I don't have a money paradigm. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go to Scotland next week, okay? And like, it'll cost this amount of money. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't do that. And I said, so you do have a money paradigm, because I know how much you want to go to Scotland, but at the moment you don't have it. So there is a money paradigm there. You've just got to figure out which one it's at. Are you at deficit? Are you at break even? Are you at surplus? Or are you at abundance? If you're at abundance, you'd be like, yeah, let's go. So money is really an emotional connection. And it decides what you talk yourself into and what you talk yourself out of. Abundance is a feeling of freedom. That's mostly what it is. It's that you're at a feeling of freedom. I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. And I think that's how we all really want to live. Well, it's how I love to live. And because I've been at the other end, which I'll tell you about very shortly too. But let's just go to the surplus one. Surplus is comfortable. there's a little bit left over. There's nothing on fire at the moment that we've got to go and put out. Like, it's just okay. Yeah, this is cool. And that's how I lived for that first 8 years. That after we bought the business, I was comfortable. I was also bored. Now, there's a thing going around in our family, like, because I have 4 sisters, so 3 of the sisters are saying, I think we've all got ADHD because, and I said, maybe we just are goal setters. And as soon as we reach a goal, we're looking for the next one. Isn't that really what we are? Like, we have this like heat-seeking missile thing inside of us that we just want to be able to get to where we want to go, but enjoy what's going on at the same time, not just thinking I've got to get there, enjoying it and have gratitude for everything that is here right now. Because I don't like labels, really. Like, yes, I'm giving you labels here on money mindsets, but it's to help you see where you're at. But I don't like labels like, oh, okay, so you're this and you're that and you've got this problem. Like, I just don't like to go there. Now, I want you to think about a deficit mindset for a moment. If you give somebody with a deficit mindset more money, they find more things to spend it on. Their expenses grow up. So if they get a pay rise, then they change their way of living. They start to buy different foods. They go out to dinner more. They still do the same thing. The same amount of money will still be not left over at the end of the week or the month or the fortnight. If you see anybody with a deficit mindset and they win the lottery, that's the fastest way to see it in action. It's just gone, 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 gone. And then they're back to where they were, or probably in a worse state, because then what happens is that they start beating up on themselves for not having anything to show for it. So their self-image takes a beating. Now, this is because the paradigm is running the show. All of these money mindsets are paradigms. So you may have a deficit paradigm, you may have a surplus. I want you to put in the chat, what is your money paradigm at the moment? Is it that you're at a deficit? Are you break even? Are you surplus? Are you abundance? Now, this is a part that you all need to hear. Some of you have had the pay rises. Some of you have had a really good year in business. Some of you have had the promotion. Some of you have had the best month you've ever had. But it didn't fix the thing that you're here about. It was never the amount of money that held you in the ceiling. Good job, Brenda. It's always up from there. Your income was not the ceiling. It's your paradigm. Your paradigm that maybe was even built before you were even conscious of it, and you probably didn't even build it. Good job, Mags. Well done. And guess what? It's probably still running the show. Well, I bet it is, because unless you've learned how to change your paradigm, the chances of it running the same show as maybe your parents, or now, you know, I really liked Hayden Panettiere, or however you say her name, and she said something the other day about parenting. You either parent exactly like your parents, or you decide not to and you do the opposite. And she was talking about parenting her own daughter. And I thought, that is dead on. But it's also correct about pretty much everything in life. We grow up learning a certain way from our parents, and we either love it or we hate it. And we either stay the same as them, or we make a conscious effort to change it. But I'm sure you couldn't pass that on to somebody else unless you'd learnt how to change your paradigm step by step. Oh, good job, Rafaela. Well done. Good job, Mickey. Good job. Good work, Lisa. Well done. Now, when I was 21, 22, I came back to Catherine I left and worked over in Townsville for, I don't know, 18 months or so. I worked on a cruise boat. You know, my income was the income that I'd always wanted. I wanted to earn $45,000 a year, and I came from like 27 as an apprentice sort of thing, and I got the $45,000. Guess what? I got a David Jones card, and I got some other things, and I had a car, and I had all these things, and I had racked up bills all over the place. And I came back to Catherine for a month's holiday, and I couldn't afford the holiday. So I asked my old bosses, and I said, can I please come and work while I'm here in town, because I don't have the money to stay here. So I moved in with my dad and my stepmom and my little sister, and I was living there. And I was working. I had 3 jobs in Townsville before I got the job on the cruise boat, and the cruise boat was cool. Then I'd had enough of being out at sea I did it for a year, and then I came back to Catherine. Now I had 3 jobs in that business. I worked for the hire car part. I did waitressing, and then I was a breakfast cook as well, just to get enough money. And I was borrowing every week from my bosses to pay for the next week, like to pay for this week. So I was always behind. Anyway, my boss pulled me aside one day and he says, now Polly, what the hell are you up to? And I said, well, I've got this card that I'm just paying the minimum. He says, what, you're just paying the interest off it? So your sheets that you bought on that and all this stuff that you bought on it actually is costing you more and more. You might have bought it on a sale, but now every month it pays. I'm like, yeah, that's happening. And he said, what else have you got? And I told him all these other things, that I still had like a power bill back there that my landlord had paid, and I had to pay him off. And it was just in a little bit of a mess. Anyway, he said, all right, let's add it all up. You can't, every Tuesday morning, because payday was Tuesday, every Tuesday morning you come into my office and we'll go through what your wage is. And like, it was a Tuesday afternoon, we'd get paid at like 2 o'clock. So I'd have to go and see him at 4, sit down, work out, and he'd paid all my cards off and all my debts off, and then I just had to pay him back. And then he would keep a bit of it so that when I was leaving, I would have a bit of money, but I had enough to live off. And he said, you have to live off this. You're not allowed to borrow money off anybody. You've got to start to learn to live in these means. And I was like, yeah, right, I hated it. But anyway, so I I just worked more and more hours so I'd get more and more money, because that was my mindset. Hey, I had my hourly rate and the hours tied to how much money I earn. Oh, good, Christine. Good job. So through that time, in that, like, it was probably over, I was there for a month, and then they asked me to stay. Can you stay for the season? Because it was coming up to the dry season, because I came back in May, and I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so by the time September sort of came along, so that was like May, I was probably June when he figured it out, to September. By that time, because of the action and the repetition of this happening every week, I had started to see myself as somebody with surplus. I wasn't at abundance, but I was at surplus. And so my self-image started to change. And then from that moment onwards, from that, this was back in 1998, I started to change. But I didn't understand. I could not have sold it to anybody, because I did the same thing, like with some of my staff and some of my kids. I'd done and gone and paid all their stuff out, but I didn't realize what I had done was change how I saw myself in that time. And it wasn't what he was teaching. It wasn't anything like that. Like, I just started to see myself differently. So when you see yourself differently, you change the vibration that you like are living on. So when I'd paid out people's bills and said, okay, now you just pay me back, they would just go straight back out and do it again, because they hadn't changed a part of their self-image. So that was really, really like something that opened my eyes for me. Now, I want you all to get out your workbook. Now, mine is over there. I'll just grab it. Hang on a moment. I want you to get out your workbook, because you're going to do this lesson or this exercise that I had to do 8 years ago. So, okay, the truth about money. I want you to go to the little table there that asks you all the money that you've earned. So it looks like this over the last 5 years. How much did you earn 5 years ago? So back in, let's go 2020, and then 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. Those of you that are in business, you will probably know your numbers, because I know mine. Now, if you went, I want you to just go and put all those numbers in. Just have a, like, if you roughly guess. Now, no, I'm not going to ask you to post this either, so this is just for you. Just do this for you. Just put the numbers in. Then on the third column, it says what I told myself that year. Now, some years you may not be able to get back to, but it's probably going to be the same story. I had a story that December, January, and February were really slow months, and that always brought my year undone. Here's some other things that I can give you that, like, things are a bit tight. The budget changed, maybe. That could be something that you, you know, I told the story on Monday night about us losing a whole lot of money overseas investing. And I said Trump. It wasn't Trump. It was Biden. I had to ask Craig about that. I blame Biden. Like, he's got nothing to fucking do with Biden, Polly. But Paradigm will try and sell you on outside so that you don't change. Remember that. It's going to try and sell you on an idea that's outside of you so that you remain the same. It's that time of the year. It's the worst weather we've ever had. It's the crime in this town. It's costing us a heap of money. The price of fuel. I know I had some clients this year that were like, oh my God, the cost. I'm like, don't focus on it. Just focus on what you want. You will attract the people. Just like the acorn and attracting the energy to it, you will attract the people in harmony with what you want, as long as you stay with that and don't let the outside. But I want you to see what you've been thinking over the last 5 years. What's really been creating your results? Now, has anybody done this yet? I want you to tell me yes once you've done it. Now, I had to do this over 8 years. I'm only asking you to do it over 5. And I had to plot it. And over that 8 years, I could see that we were pretty much a flat line. If not, we were on a really, really slight downward curve. Now, I was just plotting revenue. If you plotted revenue and profit, you might see that they both go down together, or one tanks more than the other. Like, you can play around with this. I just want you to look at your revenue, or what your wage was. So has your wage gone up in the last 5 years, or has it gone down? Has it stayed the same? I've been on 120,000 for the last 5 years, or every year my wage grows like 20 grand, and that's your paradigm. Maybe whatever it is for you, I just want you to track it. Now, we weren't going down in revenue because I was having time off or anything like that. Craig and I were working harder than ever. And we were working harder than most people. We were in there on Saturdays and Sundays, and I was bringing job cards home to Price. I was doing everything that I could, going, like putting the kids to bed and then going back down there and doing some more. And I'll tell you oh, good job, well done, well done. Did you see that there's a trend? Now, to stay where we were, it's gone down, Mickey, yeah. So, like, you've got to think, what's my paradigm doing there? What's it talking me into? What's it getting me to buy into? Now, for Craig and I, we didn't have to change for us to stay where we were or go down. Like, there was no change in us. But this is what we were doing. There's a story in U Squared, and those of you that have got the book U Squared, you know the story, but of a fly on a windowsill. and it's desperately trying to get to the outside world, and it's just hitting up against the glass. It just keeps hitting the glass, hitting the glass, hitting the glass. And like 2 meters away, there's a door that's open. But that fly just keeps hitting the glass, hitting the glass, hitting the glass, and it dies there on the windowsill. Now, it didn't die on the windowsill because it wasn't trying harder. It was probably trying harder than ever. But it died because it was trying harder doing the same thing. Thinking the same thoughts. Believing the same things about yourself. Now, that was me for 8 years. And, I remember Craig telling me, you can just hear it and you're just like, I would just fob him off and just like, yeah, whatever. He was telling me this thing for years. And then when I first heard it from somebody else, I came back and told it to him. And he's like, I have been telling you that for years. And it was, Polly, do you know what the definition of insanity is? Now, you remember my paradigm. It was wine time paradigm. I was doing the same thing and then going in, working harder, doing all these things. And he's like, you're doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You can't keep doing the same thing if you want something different. You've got to learn a different way. Now, like I said, ours was flatlined and it was starting to go down. Now, I want you to look at all those reasons that you gave yourself there. Like, why? Why was it going down? What were you thinking about the money? What were you, whatever your thoughts were? They're all your excuses. They're excuses that your paradigm gives you so that you don't have to change. Because change is bloody scary. Remember that? As soon as we go to change, we hit a terror barrier. Straight up, it's right there. What you want is on the other side of it, but you've got to get through the terror barrier first. Now, I'll tell you, when I was 21 or 22, and I had to go to Mr. Kelly and say, look, I'm in a really terrible money state, can you help me? And he already knew. That was fear. Because I really feared that he would judge me and just say, you're a bloody idiot or whatever, and criticize me. I was already doing enough of that myself. Now, I was supposed to, in this year, I was supposed to save up 10 grand. And this is what led me to him. I was supposed to save up 10 grand to go overseas with my friends. I didn't do it because I didn't know how to. My paradigm controlled my spending. My paradigm controlled how much money came in. My paradigm controlled who came through the door, and how much I made in tips or whatever else that I was doing. Your paradigm is controlling so much of your life. Now, some of you have money goals. Oh, that's good to see a trend. Went up for 2 years, then went down again. Yeah, it's just such a good exercise just to see where you're at. Now, if you're going to go after a money goal, an income goal, don't just go and pull it out of thin air. I've done that before. It doesn't work because you're just like, why? Why is that number important? You're just like, I have no fucking idea. I just pulled it out of thin air. So if you're ever going to set a money paradigm, work out, or a money goal to create as your new paradigm, work out how much your expenses are. So I'll give you an example. My expenses when we first started that was $80,000 a year. That's just what they were. And that's not just me. That was $80,000 me and $80,000 Craig. That would cover everything we were that we wanted to pay off everything, and there'd be a little bit left over. That's what we started at. Then, and I didn't know how to increase that. we had a bit of a business and we'd just take drawings here and there sort of thing. And then like when we got our tax returns, it's like, yeah, you get a bill, which was never fun. So I thought, and once I learnt this, right, so like 7.5 years ago or 7 years ago, I was taught that if you want to create a money goal, work out what your expenses are and how much that costs, and then work out how you want to live. So if you want to go out to dinner once a week and how that dinner looks, if you want to go on a holiday once a year, how much does that cost? If, like we always say, well, Craig and I do, that every like 3 times a year we should have a weekend or like 5 or 6 days away together, just to get out of work and be together. So like that was us. You don't have to do the same thing. This is your life. Remember, you got to do it your way. Maybe you want to we have every second year the whole family gets together, and I like to pay for our holiday. That's in my goals, right? But you do the way it works for you. So when you add all those things up, so say like ours is a 2-year sort of cycle. So on top of our 80,000, we came up with it was another 180 a year, so that I could go to my trainings overseas and do the things that I want to do over there. Take the kids on a holiday every second year. So we've got 3 kids and then their partners come too, and we take the partners as well. So then that makes there 3, 6, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of us, minimum sort of thing. Sometimes other like family members come too. But so I got to ours as being a $260,000 income for me and for Craig. Now, remember where I started. I started at 80. Now, I'm not telling you what you like, and you can't just like it. Everything takes a steady sequence of growth, but this is how I came up with our number. And it's not up to you to figure out how it's going to come. Yes, you have to clear the channels and you have to make a way for the money to come in, but it's not up for you to say this amount's going to come through here and this and here and there. Like, you have to be willing to change though. That's the number one thing. You have to be willing to step through the terror barrier, change your own self-image and change how you see yourself, and willing to change the frequency that you vibrate on. And how do you do that? Like, that's where where'd mine go? That's where your emotional scale comes in. Because abundance is a feeling of freedom. Surplus would be a feeling of optimism. Break even will be maybe hopeful, and then deficit, maybe frustration. I'm just giving you just an idea here, but have a look at that emotional guidance scale and just ask yourself, like, I'm at this level. What do I actually feel on a daily basis? Because your feeling tells you what the paradigm is in your subconscious mind. Remember, this is our whole mind. Conscious is underneath. What am I actually feeling on a daily basis? Where do my thoughts go? And the money that you're earning right now is because there is a paradigm in control. Now, I sell the idea of fuck the how. You cannot get there enough. I think you cannot play with that enough. You just got to get your mind to go, oh, just forget the how, forget the how. Don't worry about the how, don't worry about the how. Just allow. And when I had Maddie, so Maddie is 24 this year, and when I was pregnant with her and I just had them, we were in hospital, and a lady that lived across the road here, Kim, came up to the hospital with their video camera and was videoing all the other kids and then nieces and nephews holding her and them. Sorry, I'm still getting used to that. And I thought, I want a video camera. Like, we didn't have these things back then. I wanted a video camera, but we were on a deficit at that stage. Craig was on about 40 grand a year. I wasn't working. We had $10,000 in savings. We had just bought this home, and there was not that much room for anything extra. And that $10,000 was there for a rainy day. You can just imagine what happened when you save for a rainy day, hey? Anyway, so I wanted a video camera, but there wasn't the budget for it. Now, when Maddie was 6 months old, oh, they were 4 months old actually, somebody came to me and said, now, Polly, well, maybe she was only a month old, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. They came to me and they said, now, our daughter is getting married and she wants to get married out at Bullita, which is like a few hours away, but in the sticks, and we need somebody to cater for the wedding. Would you please do the catering, and we'll pay you a per head basis, and we'll supply all the food and everything, and you just tell us what to buy and we'll go through the menu and da-da-da. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool idea, no worries. And I said, how about, and we sort of came to the thing of $10 a person. There was 80 people coming to this wedding. This video camera that I wanted was $810. Now I could afford to put in the $10, but there is no way that when I set that goal that I wanted a video camera, that somebody would ask me to come and cater for their wedding. No way. And this is why I really say, forget the how. Just get rid of the how. Do not worry about the how. And I talked to you yesterday about comparison. When I told that man like $1,000 and he's like, oh my God, that's expensive. And I said, oh yeah, what are you comparing it to? And he says, well, that's a bloody good question. I don't know. I'm not really comparing it to anything. And I said, okay, so do you think maybe that we're just conditioned to say when things are over a certain price, or when something is a certain price, we just say it's expensive? And he said, yeah, well, probably. And so I think a lot of people do that with clothes as well. So like I just want to give you some different ways to think, so, and different ways to reason things out. So if you went and bought a pair of pants or a pair of trousers or a skirt or something like that, that costs $150, and maybe you wore it, I don't know, 15 times in a year or something, it maybe cost you $12 each time you wore it. If you wore it 100 times, there's like $1.50 that it cost you. Now, when we reason with things like that, it doesn't sound so bad, does it? But then what happens if you buy a dress worth $600 or more, or a bit less, who cares, and you feel flippin' amazing in it, and you have the best night in it? Isn't that worth it too? It's just about playing around with your paradigm. Like, okay, what is in there? Like, what is it trying to get me to do? Remember, it doesn't want you to change. Both of those are good value. Both the pair of pants and the dress are good value. But I want you to think about learning to put more value on how you feel than how things cost. Now, you can go and buy a $12 thing from Temu or Shein or whatever else, and if it feels amazing, who gives a shit how much it costs? I have spent a lot of money on my growth, but in comparison to what I've turned it into, it was priceless. And I just want to go through a few of these things with you, because my first thing that I ever spent money on my own personal self, now I took my middle daughter and we went to counselling when she was, I think she said she was about 10 or 11. And we did it for about 18 months because we were at loggerheads. We were yelling and screaming, and I watched my family go through exactly the same thing. Remember, like, if you either love how you grew up or you hate it, but unless you make a conscious decision to change it, you will do whatever the way that you grew up. Now, I wanted it different. So I found a counsellor. There was one here in this town. She was a really, really great lady for both of us. And we went together and then we went separately. And we learnt how to communicate with each other, because that was our biggest thing. We didn't know how to communicate. We were just both pretty much the same. And I had watched my family do the same thing, and it just be the hardest thing for the rest of the family to sit and watch, because I was watching it happen with other siblings of mine or other sisters of mine. And so I never wanted to go through that. So first of all, I didn't have to pay any money because it was through Catholic Care, and we went through some counselling. Now, I saw how much that had done some work with Hannah and I. And I went to we have a thing called October Business Month here in the Territory. And so in October, there's more upskilling things that come to town, and you're able to go and do them. So there was one on wages. Now, I was just following how I was taught to do the wages. I didn't really understand a lot of the things and how it all sort of worked with reporting and all of that. So anyway, I went and the regulations and stuff. So I went to this upskill on wages. But there was something about the person that was delivering it, and I thought, I think that she can help me. I think that she can help me get through some of this stuff, because some of the stuff that she was saying, I thought, oh, that doesn't really fit with what I think, but it'd be cool to think that way. And I thought, you know what? So I just raised my hand once and I said, do you do other things beside this? And she's like, yes, I do. And I said, oh, cool, I think I need to work with you. And she's like, yes, I think you do too. And I thought, well, how the hell would you know? But now that I know what I know, I'm thinking, yeah, she probably knew what I needed. Anyway, so I went and had a meeting with her, and then the first thing she said, okay, the first thing you need to do is spend a weekend with me, and we're going to do this, this, and this. And I said, oh yeah, rightio. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that'll be maybe $1,000. Anyway, $5,500. Now, it was in Catherine. I still came home every night, but I went to her for Saturday and Sunday. That was it. So there was no food, no retreat, no nothing. It was just there, and I spent most of the fucking time crying. And it was a lot of money for me to spend on me on 2 days. And there was one session through Zoom. It wasn't through Zoom, I was saying FaceTime or something like that. A week later. Anyway, I didn't tell Craig how much that was going to cost. I just went to the thing each day, and he's like, what are you doing? I said, oh no, I'm just going through, do this something. Anyway, 2 weeks later, we were in Darwin. I've got 3 kids, so we've got 3 kids. We were out to dinner with these 3 kids, and Craig saw something different in me. And he said, what did you do on those 2 days? And I said, well, and I explained some of the things that I went through. And he said, your confidence has grown. You're not reactive. There's so much that's changed about you. And if I don't do it too, I'm afraid that you're going to outgrow me. And that wasn't even a part of my mind. I didn't see anybody else as needing this help as much as I did. I just knew that if I didn't change something, I could see where I was going to end up. I already knew, because I'd seen other people go through this and do the same thing. And I thought, I can already see where this is going if I don't change something. So 2 weeks later, after that, my husband did the same thing. And I got a little bit of discount, but anyway, paid the other, I think it was $5,000 for him. But he could see the value in the change. I want you to know we never can tell what we are going to gain from something, but we always know how much we're going to have to give up, and the time. That is a given. So I knew I was going to have to give up 2 days plus another call and $5,500. But I didn't know the change that I was going to have. So that was the beginning for me. So, some of you that might be doubting, like, can I see the value in coaching, and can I see the value in having somebody point out where maybe I should need to change my thinking and things that I could go through? They definitely do. And the people around you change too. But anyway, that then led on to a year's coaching, which cost $10,000. And Craig says, like, yep, righto, I know that you don't give up and you won't waste this money and not turn up and not do the work. So I am happy to put in that 10 grand. So this started back in, I think, 2016. So 2016 to 2017. And then I sort of had a bit of a break. And then it came to the eulogies in 2018, doing those 3 eulogies. And I thought, yeah, okay, I've changed and I do some things a bit differently. But what will my story be? I couldn't see the story being any different. And to be honest, like, everything that I bought before those eulogies was pretty much upskilling me. It was giving me different skills. So giving me the ability to go, hey, Hannah, time out, let's go. Like, let's just go to our separate spots, like go back to each of our corners, and then we'll come back in once the emotion's gone. And being able to do things like that. It was just giving me skills. But everything that I did after was buying back my life. There's no other way that I could really put that. Like, I am buying my freedom back. So when I did that 3 days with Bob Proctor, called a paradigm shift, like, yeah, this is exactly what we're doing. We're just doing it over 6 days. But when I did the paradigm shift and I wrote my goal that I'm going to be one of Bob Proctor's top coaches in the whole wide world, and I'm going to be in his inner circle, I couldn't tell Craig straight away. It took me about 3 days to say, hey, honey, I want to be one of Bob Proctor's coaches. And he's like, oh. Now, in that 2 years that I'd been coached, I was then coaching him on some things, right? So giving him some of the skills that I had. So he said, righto, what are you doing about it? And I said, well, I've booked a call. He said, yeah, of course you have. And I said, well, I haven't had it yet, but I've booked the call. And he said, righto, go and see how much it costs. Because, do you know? And I said, no, I don't know. I have to book a call to find out how much it costs. I said, okay, righto. So I was upstairs in my office and I had my call. His name was Justin. And he told me the price, $30,000 US. I was like, okay. Didn't really do the maths, but anyway, I went downstairs and I said, okay, honey, I got the price. And he's like, okay, give it to me. I said, 30 grand. And he's like, oh, that's not too bad. And then I said, and US. He's like, what the? Right. Now, that's a big decision. I said, yeah, I know. And the decision was to do thinking into results so that I could coach it. Now, I didn't know that Craig handles all his share market shit and stuff. I just let him play with that. He had just sold some shares and something. He said, well, I have got, so it was about 44,000 or something. He said, I've got about 43 or something sitting in there. I'm going to invest in you, Polly. And, I got teary that day. And I thought, rightio, okay. And, when somebody backs you like that, there's no way in the world you can let them down. Now, in my first quarter, so I did this in May. I signed up 19th of May. I opened my doors 1st of July. Remember what Bob had said? Polly, you want to help people fix their life? You fix your own first. You fix yourself first, and then you help other people. I'm like, okay, no worries, Bob. Now, I studied my little ass off, and I was up at 4 or 5 in the morning and bed at 10 o'clock at night, still working full time at the other business and then just doing all this at night time. When I opened my doors, my first month, I created 28,000 in revenue in my business, and then in my first quarter it was 88,000. So straight away I had got back on my investment. Not a problem in the world. It was just done. So when somebody says to me, Polly, can you really justify charging people 21,000? Yes, I can, because I know what it can do, and I've got the proof. Then I invested in 100,000 in having Bob coach me. So over an 18-month period, I paid him 100,000 to coach me, and he coached me on how to think. This is what this man was all about, like learning how to think so that you get what you want. Then I went over to LA to one of the trainings, and I hopped in this car and it had beautiful red leather, and I'm like, fuck, I want one of these. So I got myself a Lexus with red leather. Now that was like the Kluger all over again, but just to the next level. And then while I was still going through that 100,000 in coaching, I went and ordered my Porsche. So I had my Lexus for a couple of years, and then while I still had that, I decided I was going to get a Porsche. Now, there's a whole story behind that, which I don't really have time to tell you, but when we sat there and built that car, and you build everything, you build like what color the brake calipers are going to be, you build what color the revision mirrors are going to be, what color the handles will be, everything. You build that thing, and then they have to approve it. And then, so this was in September, and then in it was in February, it was close to my birthday, they send you this little thing, and they said, Polly, while we're building your car, here's a little replica so you can build your own. Like, mine doesn't look like this, but like, here's a little Porsche that you can build of your own. So I got to put it together. Now I was shaken. Now when we sat there and he said, okay, like this car was 245,000 that we built, he said to me, okay, are we doing this, Polly? And I said, okay. How much do I have to pay in deposit? He's like, $5,000 to order it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so I tapped that $5,000, and then he says to me, he says, now, Paul, we got to get this approved. When we get the approval, do you want me to call you before we go ahead with it? And I said, if you call me, I will back out. Do not call me. Only let me know if it's not approved, and then we just can it and I get my money back. Hey? And he says, yeah, that's how it works. I said, rightio, no worries. Now, when that car arrived in May of 2023, I had to go through the finance option. Now, my business the year before had made a $40,000 loss because I'd had to step back into Hans. Now, I was shaking in my pants. I had to give those figures over, and I'm thinking, they are not going to give me this car. And then I went in there, picked up this car, and for 3 days I sat in my house, and each time the doorbell rang, I thought, my God, they come here to repossess this car because they made a mistake and they should not have given it to me, because no money had left my account. Now, my self-image is talking to me the whole time. You don't deserve this car. You're not good enough for this car. You haven't done enough work, da-da-da-da. Like, it is so loud the whole time. What did I have to do? I had to just keep driving it. Now, it took me 2 months to get over 1,000 kilometers on the clock on that thing. I was so afraid that they were going to come. Like, my self-image just had not caught up to the results yet. So this is where I was living, but my self-image was down here. I was like step by step getting it up there to meet me. Then in that process too, I decided to invest in some branding. So I went to this lady, Colette Werden, and I got her to help me brand my business and rebrand me. I didn't know that it was a big self-image upgrade as well. I had no clue about that. But the one thing with Colette, and I really do love this about when you're getting coached by somebody that has a higher self-image than you and knows how to pull it out of you, I never saw the value of my own story. I did not see the truth in who I was and what I was actually capable of. And just to be like cliche, I did not see my greatness. I did not see how great I was. But that lady, she never let me shrink. Every time I tried to shrink back up, she'd be like, where are you going? Get back up here. This is what we're doing. Da, da, da. I'll be like, whoa, okay, thank you. Now, you know, I said to her one day, I said, Colette, I fucking teach self-image as a living, but I couldn't see my own paradigms. I couldn't see until somebody made me look. I couldn't see who I was. And I want you to know that no one sees their own paradigm. Not even me. Now, I know I'm going to work with Colette again. We're already teeing it up. Then I went and had a weekend in Paris with another lady that had a business that they built from scratch and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar business and sold it, and they got their cut of 20 million. So I went and spent a weekend with her just to figure out how she thinks and learn how she thinks. So in 9 years, I've roughly spent $240,000 on myself and on learning how to think and learning how to teach this and learning how paradigms run people's lives. And like, my coaching business is only just over 7 years old. But in that 7 years, I brought in revenue 2.7 million. Now, I'm not telling you that to impress you. I'm telling you that so you can do the maths. 240,000 out, 2.7 million in. Now, that's not a cost for me. That's the best investment I've ever made. And I would do every single one of them with, even if I didn't have the money, I would still do it. But you know the best thing, and this is why I'm getting teary, Craig spent 50,000 on me. For his 50th, I got to take him, oh fucking hell, ugly tears, eh? I got to take him on a Mediterranean cruise that cost me $90,000, and I surprised him. That's what all this bought. Like, we got our marriage back. I've got my kids back. We had 3 weeks over there. Some of you are going to sit on the number I gave you yesterday, and I'll tell you what, that first $5,500 I spent was the scariest $5,500 I'd ever spent. But I wouldn't take it back for quids. That opened the door. And then every amount of money I spent after that just grew and grew and grew. It got more and more and more. But it made me the person that I am today. Becoming somebody that can think into the results that they want, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what is going on in the world, has been one of the most valuable things I have ever learnt to do. Nothing can hold you back unless, well, the only thing that holds you back is your paradigm. You have to learn how to change it. And I've become a master in changing mine, and I just flipping love helping other people change theirs. Now, 21,000 may feel like a whole lot to you. And I just want you to remember that not everybody gets invited. Just because you book a call doesn't mean I'm going to say, yeah, let's just go for it. I want to know if you're ready to take responsibility. I want to know if you're ready to do the work, because I don't want people that come in and just aren't ready to do it. And that's what the call's for. The link is in your portal. And it is first in, best dress. I'm the only one doing the calls, and I have limited time. The task that I have for you today, oh God, thanks. Thanks, Mickey. Thank you, Lisa. The task that I have for you today is to write 2 money stories. One, your story right now, and the excuses that you're giving yourself and the things that you're like using not to do with it. Like, if it was a friend, like, really treat it. It's an entity. It is part of you. And talk about the things that you can't do and the things that, like, it's you're thinking that money can't let you do. And then I want you to write the story of you and your friend Money. If you really, really knew that money was a self-image thing. And that if you knew that you just had to change your paradigm, you could have any amount of money in the world that you wanted. It is going to take a series of growth, though. You can't just go from, like, I couldn't have gone from 180,000 to 2.6 million or 2.7 million in overnight. It takes growth. It takes work. I can't just sit there and expect it to happen. I've got to change me. And it's some scary shit. I know that. But I want you to write your old story. Write the story that you want. Burn the old one. Don't post it. Don't do anything. Just burn it. Get it out of you. And then post the picture of your new story. You get an extra prize if you come on and do a live. Tomorrow we really get into self-image. So that's where I spend most of my time on myself, is changing who I am, how I turn up, not giving a flying F of what anybody else thinks of me, being true to the truth and the greatness that's in us, the love that's in us, and being so free. And to be able to fulfill your own dreams. That's what I love helping people do. And that could be for you. But remember, this is up to you. But book your call. We've got prizes. Prizes. So I've got 4 prizes to give out today. Mickey Wilson and Navina. I'm sorry, I didn't write down last names for those 2. Thanks so much for posting your day 4 work. Well job. Great job, Mickey. I will work out something with you. Navina, I will just add something extra in your pack that I'm going to send out. And then also Beck Jones and Rachel Howells used to getting a prize for already booking a call. So well done, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Just remember, money comes from you and it starts and ends with you. Look at that trajectory of where your money's been for the last 5 years and understand that it will just keep going that way unless you do something about it, unless you upgrade your self-image. And that's what we're going to work on tomorrow. So remember, tomorrow is self-image day. It's all about you. I will see you at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then at about 10, 10:15, we'll go into Zoom for an hour or so and answer any of your questions. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.